So, what does it actually take to be effective in Christian ministry? It's a huge question, and it's one that Charles Spurgeon, the Prince of Preachers, spent a lot of time thinking about. In one of his famous lectures to his students, he laid out the essential qualities a person needs, not just in their private walk with God, but in how they actually relate to other people. Let's dig into what he had to say. Right out of the gate, Spurgeon does not pull any punches. He starts with a really strong warning that ministry is not some kind of stage play. For him, faking it in the pulpit isn't just bad form, it's a spiritually fatal act. This quote really sets the serious tone for everything else he's about to say. So, how does Spurgeon organize all his thoughts on this? Well, he makes this really helpful distinction. See, he had already covered the Godward side of things, a person's private spiritual life. But this whole talk, this is all about the Manward qualifications, the things that people can actually see, the traits they experience day in and day out. And this is the absolute key right here. These aren't some hidden internal virtues that nobody knows about. No, these are the public-facing qualities that either build trust or completely destroy it. Spurgeon's whole point is that you can have the truest message in the world, but if the messenger's character doesn't line up, the message is going to fall flat. Spurgeon kicks things off with two absolute non-negotiables. He basically says if a minister doesn't have these two things, nothing else he does is going to matter. And notice the word he keeps using, evident. It's not enough for these qualities to just be there. They have to be seen. First step is sincerity. And for Spurgeon, it's not enough to just be sincere in private. It has to be so obvious, so plain to see that no one could possibly doubt it. People have to know without a shadow of a doubt that the person speaking to them genuinely believes every single word coming out of his mouth. And you can just see the stark difference it makes, right? When someone speaks from the heart, their words have real weight. They can bring about conviction. But if they're just an actor playing a part, people can sniff that out from a mile away. Spurgeon warns that the audience will listen with disgust, and the message, no matter how true, will be totally powerless. But look, sincerity alone isn't the whole picture. Spurgeon pairs it with what he calls evident earnestness. This is about more than just believing something is true. It's about feeling the weight of that truth. It's sincerity plus passion. To make this point, Spurgeon paints this incredible picture from a battlefield. He says preaching the truth without any passion is like trying to knock down a castle wall by just rolling a cannonball up to it. The ball is heavy, it's solid, it's real, but without any force behind it, it just kind of thuds against the wall and sits there. It does nothing. So what's the solution? You gotta heat it up. When that same truth is delivered with the fire of earnest passion, it becomes what he calls a red-hot shot. It doesn't just roll, it smashes through. The heat, the force behind the message, that's what gives it a decisive impact. And listen to how strongly he puts this. This isn't some polite suggestion he's making. It's a command. Make them red hot. He's telling his students that because eternal destinies are hanging in the balance, they have a duty to preach with a fiery passion. Okay, so after those two big ones, Spurgeon moves even deeper. He gets into the minister's heart and starts talking about the relational qualities that really shape the day-to-day connection he has with his people. And he zeroes in on these three traits, and they all have to do with building trust. The congregation needs to see a love for them that's obvious, a pattern of unselfishness that's clear to everyone, and a deep tenderness, especially when the truth being preached is a hard pill to swallow. I just love this image Spurgeon uses for love. He says a minister's heart should be like a huge, safe harbor, so big that everyone in the entire congregation could come and cast their anchor in it and feel secure. Without that kind of big-heartedness, he says, a ministry is just going to fail. Next up is unselfishness, and Spurgeon is incredibly blunt about this. He says, the moment a minister gets a reputation for being selfish, whether it's about money or being jealous of another pastor's success, his effectiveness is over. It's done. People just won't follow a leader they see as self-serving. And finally, there's tenderness. Now this one is a balancing act. Spurgeon is adamant. You have to speak the truth, straight, no compromise. But, he says, you have to do it gently. The goal is for the message to penetrate the conscience, not for your delivery to just offend the person. It's about delivering hard truths in the kindest way you can. You know, one of the best ways to learn what to do is by seeing what not to do. And Spurgeon knew this. So he gives us a few profiles of the kinds of men who are completely disqualified from having any kind of effective ministry. Seeing what doesn't work really helps us understand what does. He lists several types here, from the man who just doesn't know enough to teach, to the selfish man we just talked about who loses all trust. But man, his description for the bitter man is something else. He calls him a spiritual ship scuttler. Think about that image. Someone who deliberately sinks the ship he's on, causing division and ruin for everyone. So, after laying out all of these qualifications, the good, the bad, and the disqualifying, Spurgeon wraps everything up with one final charge: a real desire for anyone who would preach the gospel. He ends with this simple prayer. See, his hope wasn't just to produce a bunch of famous charismatic preachers. The real goal was to build a healthy, genuine church, full of people who actually live these things out, all for the glory of Christ. And so this whole lecture really leaves us with a powerful question to chew on. At the end of the day, what speaks louder, the sermon that gets preached from the pulpit or the character that gets lived out day by day? That's something we're thinking about. Thanks for joining me for this.